morning. It is 4:45 p.m. and I'm ready to go. I'm going to do this episode in two parts. I'm going to do half of it on Gruden and the reason why everything played out the way that it did and what's probably going to continue happening from this Washington investigation. And then I will spend the other half talking about the first and second year quarterbacks, what I like, dislike, are they going to work out? Yes, no. A lot of them is too early to tell, but hell, I'm going to go for it anyways because I like to be right. And then if I'm wrong, I'm going to pretend I didn't say it. But damn it, it's going to be on record. So the good news is I am finally on podcasting software. I'm going to upload everything tonight. Everything will be up there, so everything will be posted both there and YouTube in the same format it's been. And all right, let's get started. So everybody, I can't say everybody knows. Well, I would assume everybody who's following football knows. But if you don't know, John Gruden had some leaked emails from 2010 and 2014. And all of this was in communication with Bruce Allen, the former president of the Washington football team. And the emails, I mean, they go through a wide variety of things. Just very casually making fun of black man's lip size. He was making fun of women being referees, gay players, saying that Jeff Fisher was forced to draft Michael Sam, calling Roger Goodell homophobic slurs and other just not nice things. Kind of really all across the board, everything which the NFL's brand has built itself up to be since the wake of the kneeling and losing the court case to Colin Kaepernick that they blackballed him and how everything has played out. And these emails do come from before then, but the issue is that Gruden is employed by them now and was actively against every single social justice movement and every single push towards a greater and more equal opportunity that the NFL has been building towards and trying to rebrand itself as over the last few years. I am sure that as this investigation goes on, that it's not only going to be Gruden, it's going to be a lot of other people, and in a way, this is what the NFL wants, not to just throw everybody's dirty laundry out in the air because these are private emails, but this is what actively employed people in the NFL are talking about, and it can be logically presumed that this goes into hiring process and thoughts, and that's a big issue with the NFL, right? Like if you have a head coach which is making a lot of homophobic slurs or saying different racialized remarks, what if they're going to be less likely to hire somebody who's of that race, of that sexuality, of that gender? And that is the exact opposite of what the NFL wants. However, it's what they need to address by removing them, right? So the NFL's done a lot of things in the last few years in order to make the game more inclusive, right? Going out of its way to hire more women, going out of its way to incentivize minority hires, persons of color, and in spite of their efforts, the ticker's not exactly moving in a way which statistically makes sense. So just raw statistics. At the current moment, 69% of players are persons of color, with 58% of them being black, but only 35% of assistant coaches are persons of color. So that's a 35% disparity. But it gets worse when you look at head coaching hires, right? 5 of 32 head coaches are persons of color. 3 are black, 1's Hispanic, and 1 is a Muslim. Right, but 84% of coaches are white, despite the fact that in the league, 31% of players are white at the moment. And the question becomes, well, why is that? We're incentivizing hiring minority coaches. We are doing things in the process to make it easier for these coaching hires to get more interviews, right? Having base interview requirements, you have to interview X amount of minorities, X amount of women in certain positions, just to get the foot in the door. But that has not been working. So the next question is, why isn't it working? And what it has to come down to is that there are people in the league who are actively keeping it from happening. And again, Colin Kaepernick won his court case. He was blackballed. In these emails, John Gruden was talking with Bruce Allen, who, while Gruden wasn't working in the NFL at the time, Bruce Allen was, saying, yeah, guys like Eric Reed should be fired. They shouldn't be playing. They're unpatriotic. They're kneeling, So when it comes to that, what it says is that there are actively people in the NFL today, and this is a presumption, however, you think John Gruden was the only person talking to Bruce Allen like that? Why did he feel so comfortable talking to Bruce Allen like that? And there's 31 other teams in the NFL, and the idea is that these would be the only people who are doing this? No. So when this probe was opened up against Washington, to backpedal a little bit, I believe it was last year. Yeah, some point last year. What was happening was there were many women who were accusing the team of allowing there to be an environment which promoted sexual harassment and other allegations of discrimination in the workplace against women in particular. And that could be supported by Bruce Allen emailing topless pictures of his cheerleaders to John Gruden. And we're only talking about 150 of 650,000 emails they're looking at. So a lot more is going to open up. So, I mean, people have been arguing, well, Gruden has free speech. It was private email, we all say bad things. And it's like, okay, first off, none of that matters. Literally none of that matters. Have that opinion, great. Yes, everybody says bad things. Nobody's perfect. The NFL, in their conduct policy, has the ability to fire anybody, right? You break the conduct policy, boom, you're fired. Every business does. But not just that. The NFL can claim anything as conduct detrimental to the game and fire somebody. Now, the thing with the NFL, with Gruden, is he resigned. So they didn't even have to take that step. There can't even be some sort of wrongful termination suit, like one which Rachel Nichols is bringing against ESPN, supposedly. That's a totally different thing, but I'm just saying as an example. So there's really no outlet. This is the end of that story. And people have been saying, oh, well, it's just cancel culture, but can anybody really be canceled if 60% of people who are commenting on all these sports pages are saying he did nothing wrong? Are you really canceled if the majority of people who are getting likes on their comments, it doesn't matter if the media people are saying Gruden did wrong things, all the normal people, and a lot of former players too, are commenting he didn't do anything wrong. I saw former player Gary and Conley commented on a post about Carl Nassib taking a personal day since he was really upset about what happened. If you don't know, Carl Nassib is the only actively out homosexual player in the NFL. He plays for the Raiders, and it's like, oh wow, my head coach was really anti-gay this whole time, or at least saying anti-gay things. So he takes a personal day, and you got a guy like Gary and Conley who's saying F out of here. He's just taking a personal day. So this ignorance, it's all around. It's not like this guy's going to get canceled. He's not going to just walk into a bar and people are going to spit at him. If anything, it seems like people are going to be buying him drinks. But that's not the NFL's problem. That's nobody's problem, even though that's what the problem's being made to be like. The problem is that Gruden having a job, with those comments being public, that's how he feels, and he's made them so casually and so consistently, and it wasn't just 2010, there were emails from 2014 too, possibly more, we don't know yet. The fact that he said those things so consistently shows that that's a way which he feels. He feels like it's okay to talk like that, and he feels comfortable talking like that to certain people, which says that there's got to be other people who feel comfortable talking like that too, in ways which are directly against the NFL's brand. This is purely a business decision. You could say it's social justice, you could say it's cancel culture, you could say they crumbled under pressure, you could say he did nothing wrong. It doesn't matter. It literally does not matter. The NFL made a business decision saying we do not agree and we do not align ourselves with these ideals, and we want to eliminate them from the game in order to make it more safe and more inclusive for everybody. Okay, it's like, I don't know, it's a little annoying. It's like, who cares? He just said a word which everybody else says, which is homophobic slur. It's like, okay, and it offended Carl Nassib so much that he's taking a personal day. Okay, why does freedom of speech protect people's ability to hurt other people's feelings and say things about them which make them feel wrong for their identity and the way that they exist and live life as if they chose to do that? It's very wrong. In my opinion, it's very wrong. But it doesn't matter if it's wrong or right, is what I'm saying. What matters is it's the NFL's brand that's wrong, and they are just sticking with their brand. So while I personally think it's wrong, everything that he said, while I personally think he should have lost his job, and while a lot of people echo that feeling too, especially the locker room. Could you imagine how awkward the locker room is? He walks up to his black players like, yeah, I made a Michelin Man lip comment, which is kind of weird. Walking up to his gay player like, yeah, you're a great player. Sorry that I called a bunch of people homophobic slurs very casually and belittled the fact that there are homosexual players in the NFL now. Like, imagine how much of a terrible situation that would be in the locker room. Nobody would want to play for that guy. Nobody would want to play in that situation. All right, who would want to play in a situation where there's a guy who's making over half the people feel uncomfortable? So it's a business decision, and it's an ethical decision, and it's the right ethical decision because business can be ethical and business should be ethical, and the NFL clearly wants to be more ethical. which goes back to looking at the hiring of different minorities and different groups, as opposed to the fact that 84% of coaches are white, despite the fact that about 70% of the league isn't. So that's the end of that. That's the wrap. It's going to get worse. There's going to be more stuff that's going to come out. I hope it doesn't get much worse than this, but judging by the fact that we have a Vegas coach who wasn't even around the league at that time, like he wasn't really in league circles, he was just doing media, and he's getting cracked with these emails, I would imagine that there were a lot of people in the league who were saying similar things, and it's for the best that it just gets weeded out, because how do you grow? How do you grow with all the weeds, right? That's what I have to say about that. The fact that it doesn't take a genius to tell that there is a disproportionate amount of minorities not in coaching positions despite how many are playing on the field, the fact that there's a disproportionate amount of minorities in executive positions despite how many play on the field and are generally involved in the game, despite the fact that 35% of assistant coaches are persons of color, but only 16% of head coaches are, right? Like, what's with the disparity? What's with the drop-off? Why does 69% become 35%, become 16% as you go up the ladder and up the hierarchy? It doesn't logically make sense. So now onto a lighter topic. I'm going to get into the year 1 and year 2 quarterbacks. I'm going to do it in the order of worst to best, and I will give my reasons. It will be a little intelligent. It's not just going to be like, oh, he wasn't thrown 300 yards yet. It'll be situations, the odds that there's going to be turmoil, because a lot of people, unfortunately, it's not their fault when they get fired at the quarterbacking position. So, I mean, Sam Darnold, for example. Look how great Sam Darnold's been in Carolina. But look how bad he was with the Jets. All right, a lot of people are just put in terrible situations, and that needs to be taken into account, so I will be doing that right now. All right, so I actually, in between the last 5 seconds, I've taken a 2-hour break from this. I was not expecting to do that at all, but in that time, I've got my thoughts all well put together, and let's go through this. So I'm going to do the worst to best year 1, and then year 2, and then I'm going to put it all together. All right, so the worst year 1 quarterback seems to be Justin Fields, and I hate to say that because he's very talented, and he hasn't yet seemed to break the stigma that Ohio State quarterbacks suck. All right, there has never, ever, like literally ever been a successful Ohio State quarterback in the NFL, and Justin Fields just seems to be following the trend of a great player who played in a system that was so good that a guy like Dwayne Haskins threw 50 touchdowns when the only thing he could throw in the NFL was dollar bills at strip clubs. So I can't consciously say that Justin Fields is better than Davis Mills right now. Davis Mills, 4th-round kid playing for the Texans because Deshaun Watson doesn't want to play, and then if he ends up being played, he might immediately be like on the exempt list for the allegations that are against him from the 20-plus masseuses. And then Tyrod Taylor got hurt, and in typical fashion, Tyrod Taylor gets hurt, rookie comes in, plays well. Mills just threw 3 touchdowns against the Patriots, all right? Mills looks good. He looks comfortable on a really bad team in an uncomfortable situation with a lot of animosity. The team itself is trying to move on from its franchise player. The team itself has like 10 guys on 1 year, $2 million contracts, new head coach. So Davis Mills, everything is set up against him, and he's not the worst rookie quarterback. He should be higher on this list, but I have Zach Wilson and Trey Lance above him because they just have more pedigree at the moment. Justin Fields should have more pedigree too, but he's been so bad. Justin Fields has been so bad. That's all I can say. Everything I say about Justin Fields, I end up saying it 3 times because there's no simpler, more concise way to put it. He's bad. He's Ohio State. And he could change it. He could turn it around. All these guys can, but it's not looking like it. He's just so inaccurate, so poor decision-making. It's not good. So I got Zach Wilson 3rd, only because he's the most sacked quarterback in football. And if he wasn't, we can reasonably assume he would be playing better. But there was a stretch the Jets scored like 6 points. They did beat the Titans, but of course they beat the Titans. And I say that, and it doesn't make any sense. It's like, really, of course they beat the Titans. It makes sense because the Jets have good receivers, and they have a quarterback who can throw a football when he's not getting bum rushed. but they have a bad offensive line. But the bad offensive line doesn't matter when you're against an equally bad defensive line. So what ended up happening, especially because the Titans didn't have A.J. Brown or Julio Jones, what ended up happening was that Derrick Henry's great production wasn't enough to beat the Jets because the Titans couldn't stop the Jets. But anyways, I digress. Zach Wilson, he's above Justin Fields and Davis Mills. He's below Trey Lance. And even though Trey Lance was iffy in his little game time starting, he got hurt. He didn't even have a full game. It's unfair to judge somebody off of almost a quarter of play. When he's come in for Garoppolo, he's looked better than Garoppolo, and that's all I got to say there. I mean, obviously, he needs more time, but Trey Lance looks like the third best quarterback in this class. Trevor Lawrence looks like the second best quarterback in this class, and he's been playing better the last few weeks, and he adds a lot with the run, and he sadly has to play through the hyperbole of the Jaguars, but can we really say he's looked better than Mac Jones? I mean, Mac Jones is the only rookie quarterback throwing above 60% right now. All right, Mac Jones is the only rookie quarterback. Mac Jones currently ranks 23rd in the NFL, despite the fact that all of his weapons are like recycled wide receiver 2s and 3s and tight end and like iffy injury-prone tight end 1s, and the offensive line is iffy and the running backs are iffy. He has not been iffy. Mac Jones has been the best spot on the Patriots offense and has been constantly keeping them in competitive games, despite the fact he's the only freaking quarterback who came out of the last two classes who just stands in the pocket. All right, it's impressive. Mac Jones has half the skill set, theoretically, of Justin Fields, Davis Mills, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Trevor Lawrence, because all those guys run. All those guys can run. They can extend plays. They give themselves a better chance to have open receivers to throw to, and Mac Jones doesn't. Mac Jones is, matter of fact, factually, the best thrower, the most accurate quarterback, the best arm of this draft class. That's a little controversial because people had Trevor Lawrence pegged as Jesus, and he is probably the second coming of great quarterbacks in the NFL, but we're not going to see it this year. I mean, we're seeing a lot of flashes. I mean, there were a lot of plays against the Bengals where it was like, wow, that's just a great play. Too bad the guys around him suck. But Mac Jones is not in an offense that's much better. The only different, better play calling, better coach. But the performance on the field, play by play, Mac Jones has just been better so far. All right, that's my opinion. I hope that's not that controversial. I mean, it's got to be a fair argument. But the best part of it, though, is that Mac Jones has taken 15th overall. Patriots didn't even need to trade anything. Patriots just sat there and they got their guy. They got Mini Brady. I'm going to call him Mini Brady because I don't want to compare anybody to Brady. I don't like comparing people to great players because it's screwed up. It's unfair. It puts too much pressure. But when you add mini, when you add poor man's as a term, yeah, that's fair. Like Kirk Cousins is a poor man's good quarterback. Mac Jones is Mini Brady. He's even the same physical fitness coming out of college. As for our year two quarterbacks, I mean, the order of this list is not at all controversial, except for if you think Burrow is better than Herbert. And in my personal opinion, I think they're equal. I think that Herbert's just in a better situation, but that's just opinion. Tua Tagovailoa is the worst quarterback from this class. And it's unfortunate, it's unfair. I'm fully going to say same thing I just said about Justin Fields. He's a system quarterback. Tua was an Alabama system quarterback. I mean, the difference between him and Mac Jones was that Mac Jones had a 7% higher completion percentage the next year, despite the fact that he could never run and extend plays or do anything with his legs. And Tua's Alabama team was, okay, I guess they were the same. I mean, I would personally say his Alabama team was better, but people would say Mac Jones's was. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. Let's say they're the same. Let's say they played on the same exact team and Mac Jones did better. And same exact argument. Mac Jones better than Tua. Freaking, what's his name? Devontae Smith said it at the combine. Devontae Smith is like, who'd you rather play for? And it doesn't matter what Devontae Smith says here because he played for both. He was a Heisman with Mac Jones, so yes, you would think he would say Mac. He could have said Tua if he felt that way. He won chips with both of them. But no, he said Mac Jones is a better quarterback. And I tend to agree. Next is Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has proven that he's no Spencer Rattler. He's no Oklahoma system quarterback. And Oklahoma does have a quarterback system, but it's a quarterback system that seems to translate pretty well to the NFL between him Mayfield, Kyler Murray. Not Spencer Rattler, but his backup is looking like he's going to be a Heisman guy next year because it's a little too late this year to get in there, unless he goes nuts. But, they got so much talent there, and Jalen Hurts just seems to be another evolution of that talent. Jalen Hurts is exactly what most good quarterbacks coming out of college are. Guys who run first/second and throw first/second, and you can't predict what they're going to do. You can't predict when they're going to do it, and because of that, you have to play a little cautious defense, and they're really good at extending plays. So Jalen Hurts does that pretty well. My issue with Jalen Hurts is that he has had accuracy problems. And yes, his team doesn't exactly have great receivers, and they have new offensive linemen every week at this rate. Plus, coaching just changed from his first year to his second year, so he's theoretically played for 3 different coaches in 3 years. I'm including college in that. But, professional level, 2 coaches, 2 years, 2 different offensive philosophies. And in over half his games, he hasn't topped 60% completion percentage, which is below the league average at 60% in today's passing league. So that is something he can fix. I personally think that if he didn't run, he wouldn't even be starting, but who cares? He can run, he's athletic, he can win games. The throwing can come. Josh Allen is the biggest proof in the pudding that you can teach somebody how to throw a football when they're 22 years old. For whatever reason, you can do it. But you can't teach somebody to run at 22 miles per hour. It's my argument for Daniel Jones, who is progressively becoming a better thrower. In fact, I had to talk about the Giants. Of course I did. Daniel Jones has the lowest interception percentage of any quarterback this season. Okay? So he's been taught how to throw. He's got better at throwing, and he's been taught how to. But he was always able to run like an MF. So same thing with Jalen Hurts. He can run, rock with him, try and teach him how to throw a little better, be a little more accurate, especially on deep balls. He likes to leave little floaters up. Look at the Cowboys game this season, for example. All right, next to, I put Joe Burrow here. This is so hard. I want to controversially say I would take Joe Burrow over Justin Herbert, but, I can't consciously do that with the product that we've seen Justin Herbert put up on the field. So I'll talk about Joe Burrow first. Joe Burrow has come onto a team which was really bad and then got loaded with offensive talent. And unlike the Giants, which are loaded with offensive talent but still can't move the ball because of their bad offensive line, for whatever reason, the Bengals, despite their bad offensive line, are able to move the ball. It's because Joe Burrow is extremely talented. Joe Burrow moves the ball well. Joe Burrow commands himself with such a presence that it's hard to blitz against him because he's always going to find the open guy. Against Jacksonville, you know how many times Joe Burrow got freaking cracked and threw like a 20 or 30-yard completion? The whole second half of that game, it was like Joe Burrow gets hit. Hausman Dash. Was it Hausman Dash? I'm gonna pause this and look at the guy's name, but I'm gonna leave this clip in. All right, this is actually really funny. TJ Hausman Dash was an old Bengals tight end / wide receiver. CJ Uzoma is their current tight end. I am terrible, but it's okay. I blame the J. I blame the J in the middle. That's what did it to me. But yeah, that was a good game by CJ Uzoma, by the way. He had 2 touchdowns, 50 yards, kind of killed Jacksonville down the stretch. But Joe Burrow has so much poise in the pocket, it doesn't really matter how his offensive line's been playing. But anyways, Justin Herbert has been ridiculous. As a Giants fan, I hate him with a passion for deciding to stay in college for an extra year instead of being our franchise savior, but it's okay. He's saving the Chargers. You know what it is? It's because we got Eli as our franchise savior, so therefore we had to let them get Herbert. I think that was the deal with the devil we signed. Same reason why we've been the worst team in football since killing Brady twice. It was like whatever bet that John Mara lost to Roger Goodell. I don't know. But Justin Herbert has been nothing short of insane. He was the best rookie quarterback ever last year with the worst offensive line. This year, their offensive line is ranking towards the top, and he is arguably a top 5 quarterback. And that is not a stretch. We are heading into week 6 of the NFL season. Yeah, week 6 already? Damn. But still, Justin Herbert is arguably a top 5 quarterback right now. Matter of fact, I mean, you got Colin Cowherd probably doing drugs before the show saying, Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert. And I mean, I'm going to make this comment, and it shouldn't be that controversial. If you're building a team right now, Justin Herbert's better for contract reasons. Like if you look at the value of play you get at quarterback per dollar, you're going to get more out of Herbert than you are Mahomes. That's a matter of fact. It's the same exact thing as saying that you would take Davis Mills and his performance over Tyrod Taylor's because you're paying Tyrod Taylor almost $20 million and you're paying Davis Mills a 4th-round pick contract. There's NFL teams need to start attributing a dollar value to the quarterback position instead of just freaking paying everybody as much money as they ask for. Like, please, please, please play for our team, Kirk Cousins. Here's $90 million fully guaranteed. It's so dumb. You're never going to win. It's so hard to win in the NFL with your quarterback taking up 25% of your salary cap. End of that rant. I'll save that for another day. But yeah, that's how I rank the year 2 quarterbacks. And if I had to rank them all together, I'm just going to go right through. Worst to best, Justin Fields, Davis Mills, Zach Wilson, Tua Tagovailoa, Trey Lance, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Joe Burrow, and Justin Herbert. And that's an exact order. That's a fair order. And if I were to make any predictions on who would move up that list, I think I'm going to say Justin Fields stays at the worst. I think Tua would have the best chance to move up when he actually plays. It's so funny. This guy he's at this stage of his career where theoretically he could have up to 21 starts, and he has, 10? I know he's played in 12 total games, and in that time, in 12 total games, this is to his stat sheet, all right? And I'm not super big on using stats, but this is his stat sheet in 12 total games, and in some of these games he came in, and some of these games he was pulled because he was sucking. 63% completion percentage, right about league average. 2,000 yards, which is an average of about 160 yards per game. He's thrown 12 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. That's good. He's been sacked 24 times. That's not bad considering how low their offensive line is ranked, that he's sacked twice in a game, with a quarterback ranking below league average, 85.8. But you have to figure he came in with a bad team around him and a lot of hyperbole between COVID and his injury and not getting a lot of snaps, and Ryan Fitzpatrick was the guy there anyways, so there was a little bit of that on top of the fact that he came in with the pressure being a 4th overall pick. So given all these factors, he definitely is the most likely to move up the list as the team gets better. He's got a lot of good weapons around him now. He's got a good coach. He's had more time in the league. Personally, I think, let's say at end of all careers, best to worst on this list, it's going to end up going Burrow, Herbert, Lawrence, Jones, Lance, and the rest of the guys probably won't be starting in 5 years. I don't think Jalen Hurts has done enough. I don't think Tua is going to end up doing enough. Zach Wilson is going to get ran out of New York same way Darnold did, and I don't know if he'll get that opportunity like Darnold did. Davis Mills is going to be he'll be a career backup somewhere, and Justin Fields will probably be out of the league in its entirety in 5 years. So he'll be bouncing practice squads or playing in the XFL when that starts up again. And he'll be an exciting XFL player, don't get me wrong. But that just about does it for that. I'll see you guys next week. Take care. And this will finally be hosted on a podcasting software. Isn't that fun?